All right, so I want you to make a plein air painting this week. So remember, the Impressionists would take their paintings, much like we see in this picture here. They would take their painting supplies and their canvases, and they would go outside and paint um, what they saw in front of them, just like this, um, in a short amount of time. Now, don't panic if you don't have paints. You don't have to make an actual painting. It can be a drawing if you want. You use whatever materials you're comfortable with and what you have on hand at home right now. So, if you have a problem, an issue with materials, then just reach out to me. But you're pretty free to use what you want for this. Um, so the impressionists would go out and they would paint in a short amount of time. So if we look just at this little picture here, um, you can see that back here the light is very specific. The light is shining on this section um, of the field, and that's going to change in, like, 20 minutes or so. Same with something like this. The light is kind of dappling through the trees in a specific way that's going to change, and that's what the impressionists, this too, the light is what they're painting the way the light is shining on the leaves in this little clearing of the woods. They're painting the way the light looks at a certain time of day. That is really one of the major keys to understanding the goals of the Impressionists. And that's what I want us to focus on. So, you want to go outside in a place that's safe, social distance yourself. I want to go maybe I want you to go into like your backyard or something if you have a space like that where you can just get outside on a nice day. I want you to set a timer for like half an hour, maybe 45 minutes at the max. And I want you to identify a composition. So you're going to look around your space and say, like, something like this is there's not a lot of objects in here, right? There's really only two trees, but the way the light breaks it up into blotches, the light patches kind of really create more subjects, more ways to move our eye through this painting. So you don't need a lot of things. This is just a tree here. But the way the tree branches bring our eye out to the borders of the composition help to fill this space. I want you to also notice on this one, for example, the place where the sky meets the earth. This is our horizon line, or really, this, I guess, would be the horizon line. Neither of those lines cut the painting directly in half. So we don't want to do that. Whenever possible, we want to try to make sure that our horizon line is either in the top third or in the bottom third of our painting, like this, where we see it's kind of down in the bottom half of the painting, because cutting our picture in half with the horizon line is sort of a compositional no-no. Okay, so set up your objects. This is kind of a painting here. This is people actually doing plein air painting, but just look at the objects though, because we have something in the foreground, we have something in the middle ground, and we have a background with smaller objects. That's a nice, easy way to give your picture some depth. And having a set of three objects is always a nice choice, because three is an uneven number of objects, which is more visually pleasing than even numbers. So those are just a couple of, compositional tips there that I want you to keep in mind. But when you're painting or drawing, you're going to start with, blocking out the large objects, blocking out where your horizon line is, where your sky meets your earth. And then I want you to identify where the lightest lights are. Where is the light hitting your objects, and where are your darkest darks, and sort of block those in. Here we can see that this is all blocked in real clearly. Dark darks, light lights, you could block those things in pretty clearly to give the sense of your subjects. Now, this is a nice example of how, when you're doing a quick half hour to 45-minute painting that's completed, at the end of that time, you will not be adding all the details to this person or to this building or to this building or even to these trees. You're going to keep it real blocky, because you're creating an impression, and you're creating that impression by painting the way light hits the objects. You're not creating a photographic replica of the details of each of these objects, and that is kind of the beauty. This is really just a splotch and a splotch, but we're perceiving it as a person sitting on a chair, based on the context all around it. Our brain is kind of filling in the details that the painter has not given us. Our brain kind of just fills that in based on the context that the painter has created what by selectively painting in certain um, swaths of color, certain areas of light and dark, to just give the impression of a scene. Okay, so do your best, have fun. I would keep your piece under 8 by 10 inches. So if you make it too big, it's going to be too much for you to complete in this amount of time. So 5 by 7. This person here you can see is working on a real small piece. This would be like an 8 by 10. This almost looks even a little bit bigger than what I want you to be working on. So you don't need to use an easel like this, although that's kind of fun if you have that. But just get out there, sit at a table if you have one, or maybe use like a clipboard to give yourself a hard edge to paint on, or draw on, and try your best to make a good composition with a lot of attention paid to the light, the way the light is hitting objects, the color of that light, right? The way the light changes based on the objects that it's hitting, the color of the light. Okay, and that's it. So enjoy.